Well, TVC News political correspondent Ayodele Ozugbakun was at that meeting, and he's here now with us in the studio to tell us the discussions they had, and of course the agreement, which of course we just had some of them. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning.
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you.
After 12 years, the Southern governors met. Somehow they went their separate ways, not finding a common ground in the region to come together. But now it seems they found their voice again. So coming back together now, resounding some of the issues they thrashed 12 years ago, well, the former governor of the state, Bola Tinubu, hosted them. What did you take off from that meeting?
I must quickly point out that the Southern governors, they are not as coordinated, they are not as united as what we have up north. If you know, the Northern governors is a constant thing. They meet every other time. It'll be quarterly. They go to Kaduna and meet, and most of the time, if you remember the last administration, the Northern Governors Forum used to be chaired by Niger State Governor, late Babangida Aliyu. And you understand that the peculiarity of the South, you have the South-South, you have the Southeast, and you have the Southwest, 17 states. From that, the peculiarity of the South, you have the South-South, you have the Southeast, and you have the Southwest, 17 states from 3 different regions coming together. Normally, we have Southeastern governors, they meet regularly. The governors from the South-South, they meet regularly. And lately, the governors from the Southwest, they meet to talk about regional integration and everything. But this one is novel, that they're coming together since 2005. And what they are particularly waiting for is like the 1999 Constitution. The process of amending that 1999 Constitution is ongoing in the National Assembly. The stage which they've gotten to now is that they are transmitting all the memoranda back to the state houses of assembly. And the governors are meant to play strategic roles. Most of these state houses of assembly, I'm sorry, they're like kind of appendages to the governors. It is what the governors want that the state house of. And for you to amend the 1999 Constitution, at least you need the process of two-thirds of those states, that's 24 states, must pass those critical issues. So you agree with me that these governors are very, very strategic to the process of amending our constitution. So that's why the Southern Governors meeting is coming at a time that is very, very important, when Nigerians are shouting for power devolution, restructuring, and so many other things.
So this is about positioning themselves to be influential when it comes to negotiating for a better deal. Constitutional amendment.
Yes.
Now, they talked about the devolution of powers, fiscal federalism, but let me read this, one of the lines from their communique. They say, while calling for devolution of powers, the goal of the forum is neither a weak center and the strong states, or vice versa, or vice versa, as the case may be. If power is devolved to the states, but they're not calling for a weaker center, doesn't that contradict?
You have to be mindful of the fact that this is a government that is formed by the All Progressive Congress at the center. And what we've had in time past before now, or what we still have now, is like a kind of aberration. We're practicing the unitary system of government, and absolutely it was given to us by the military. And a unitary system of government where you have 68 items on the exclusive list of the federal government. I was reading it, and it was as bad as till Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu became the governor of Lagos State in 1999. And through the vice president right now, they started challenging some of these things. Mike, you won't believe it that if you have an hotel in Lagos, to register an hotel, it used to be an exclusive
reserve of the federal government.
Professor Yemi Oshibajo and the directive of Asiwaju, they had to go and challenge this hotel registration in a situation by inland waterways within the axis of Lagos. Lagos State government cannot control it. You have some roads, they call it federal roads. Those roads are in total state of disrepair. That's why you have all the federal government roads, I don't know how many thousand kilometers. So we're saying this is 2017, that some of these powers, if you want to collect license in Lagos now, you have to seek the permission of Federal Safety Corps. So these things are saying, apart from Lagos State going to challenge them, and they've won some other ones, and majority of those cases, they're still in court. And why don't we devolve power? Your exclusive. Think about federal government, you have enough in your baskets.
Decongest the exclusive list.
That's what all this is about. So they're not saying that, you know, a lot of people, you know, the concept of federalism to a lot of people, they say, oh, look at the United States of America, that the center, the Washington is like talking about foreign affairs, defense, and those are the things that...
More of international relations.
More of international relations, and those are the things. But when it comes to real governance, so these people, they're just being diplomatic by saying, we don't want a weak center.
I was about to say that. Really.
We don't want a weak center, but we want you guys, let's devolve this thing.
Because if you're calling for true federalism, then what are you asking for?
But the true federalism, the center must be weak.
Exactly.
So that it will give those other powers and everything to go to local government. Today now, as we have in the Constitution, if you talk about billboards, you know, primary education, markets, all these things that are meant to be in the purview of local government.
The local government, exactly.
But today we have 774 local governments quoted in our Constitution. How will local government be listed in our Constitution? Something that is meant to be like an exclusive preserve of the states. If I like in Lagos State now, Lagos State is having, on paper, in the 1999 Constitution, 20 local governments. But since the Supreme Court said the creation of 37 other local council development area, the Supreme Court described it as inchoate. So what did the Lagos State government do? They would just get money that is meant for the 20 local government and share it with 37 other council development. And all these are aberrations. It's not meant to be listed in that constitution. So states, if you feel that this is your area, I deserve these people, they deserve 60 local government, go ahead so far. You can fund it.
Well, now, there are fears really now that the southern governors are coming together, but there are fears that political affiliation or ego trip could even jeopardize this newfound social integration the southern governors are trying to do, because the governor of Imo State, Richard Okorocha, was conspicuously absent, and he didn't send any representative. So many are asking questions already that. So how united are southern governors, and how sustainable is this newfound love?
It's not. It's a mixture of you know, the politics playing out in the southern part of the country is not like the northerners that they speak with one voice all the time. In the southwest, we have only Ayodele Fayose from the People's Democratic Party. The rest are from the All Progressive Congress. Now, in the southeast, we have only Owele Richards Okorocha from the All Progressive Congress. The rest are from the other zone. In the south, except Anambra, that is from Abga. The governor of Anambra State, for obvious reason, could not make it than the tick of the campaign, so he actually sent his deputy. When you talk about the south, I think it should be Edo State. That is under the All Progressive Congress. So it's a mixture of the People's Democratic Party and the All Progressive Congress. But I feel that should be, politics should be put aside. Partisan politics should be put aside when you talk about development of the people, when you talk about what we do for the to move forward. And I don't really know how successful that meeting, you know, actually was, because what I saw, Akin Umeambo, they briefed the press, and it did not take him up to 5 minutes to brief the press. We weren't given the opportunity to ask questions. And we would have asked those questions. So we couldn't even gauge the mood. We just saw them, they filed into a room. After 1.5 hours, they came out, and being the chairman of the Southern Governors Forum, Akin Umeambo, they briefed the press less than 5 minutes. There was a time he even said, any question, before he said Jack Robinson, let's stand up for the national anthem. So I don't know how, maybe they're speaking with one voice. I don't know. Maybe they've gone beyond that partisan line.
All right, now, because you started by saying that if we compare the Southern Governors Forum and the Northern Governors Forum, the Southern Governors Forum are not as cohesive. They are not as united and bonded as the case may be. And this could be some of the feelers, some of the perspective one would see and say, well, are these people that united? Although they've given the date for the next meeting that will be held. But talking about Governors Forum and Governors Forum and Governors Forum, this is coming together now, even though it's not the first time. But for the people, whom they govern, Nigerians in the south or Nigerians in the north, how have they benefited from this unity, this coming together, this forum, and so on and so forth?
Now, if they maximize the potentials, the prospect, I see a lot of prospects in this. Look at a state like Lagos. A state like Lagos, the landmass very small and everything. You can compare it to what we have Niger State, the largest states and everything. Now, look at the synergy between what is happening between Lagos and Kebbi State.
Kebbi State.
And look at the Lake thing and the investments, financial investment Lagos State is making there. They don't have the land. Kebbis have the land. They have the manpower. And today, look at that kind of a partnership. The number of employment they would have created through that joint venture, the number of prospects in them. So,
and even revenue.
Yes, yeah, revenue. So if Lagos and Ogun states, if they maximize, you know, the proximity, and they're able to really, okay, I don't have the land in Lagos, okay, I buy the land in Ogun State, let me employ 10,000 graduates, and let us maximize the wide area of land in Ogun State, and they'll be able to farm and do so many other things. Regional integration, that's why I was talking about infrastructure. When you see the linkage, when you see the level of decay, you know, in the roads that leads, if you are going from the southeast, Lagos to the southeast, you know, the number of hours you spend on road, and if you are going to the south, if you are, you know, the east-west road, and if they are able to say, look, we can actually come together and fix this road, Lagos, Oyo, Ogun, and Osun can actually come together and say, federal government, you know what, let's take over the Lagos-Ibadan Express Road and come together, join our resources together and fix it. There's so many things they tend to achieve from this coming together if it could be maximized.
Well, you know that there are so many challenges facing the governors, especially when it comes to road infrastructure. And like we said, some roads belong to the federal government, while some belong to state government. And it depends on your political affiliation to the center again. That plays the major role in Nigeria's politics today, and we cannot take it away, really. So talking about East-West Road, for example, that has been blocked by so many controversies and problems since the administration of former President Olusegun Obasanjo, since he approved it, and then saying that governors, do they even have the financial backing in, you know, for them to even want to carry out that kind of project? But yes, it's good enough. But looking at a state like Osun, you know, that barely survives almost monthly, and then how many would wonder how it's going to benefit really from this, because if you're calling for devolution of powers, some state we understand in Nigeria saying that somehow they don't want it because it means that they won't be able to go to Abuja every month to collect something allocation. Yes. Yes, the allocation thing will still be there because we have a common thing that ties together oil resources, allocation, and everything. What they are just agitating for is that out of 100 naira, how come the federal government will get 58 naira, and 36 state government and 774 local governments will make do with, you know, 42 naira? That this will not work. That why don't you make it? Somebody rightly suggested, why don't you make it 40, 40, 20? That is 40% to federal government, 40% to those 36 states, and 20% to 774 local government. That the lopsidedness is so obvious that those parastatals, those agencies that the federal government is manning, and you know, right now that some of them, they might have to like concede it to, you know, state governments, and they're saying that what they want here is that if, like Osun State now, there was a time Osun State was getting 3.2 billion, 2.8 billion from the federal allocation. But right now, because of loan, because of responsibility, because of what they've done and everything, sometimes there was a particular state, I went to Osun State, and the governor had this overnight chat. At that time, the governor looked at the accountant general and asked the accountant general, what did we have this month after all our regular deduction? The accountant general said 5 million naira. Wow. Oh my gosh.
5 million naira. And I was like,
for a state.
What are you meant to do with 5 million? The IGR is not as, you know, they've tried to boost the IGR, but they're not there yet. They've not done anything, just scratching the surface. That's okay. How much will you use to pay your workers? They say in excess of 2-point-something billion naira. So if you are meant to pay workers, they said that cannot even pay the NEPA bill for their secretariat. to power government house, $500 million, and they've been facing this critical situation for some months right now. So after the normal deduction, those states can barely survive. And you have a situation whereby they are even telling you that the IGR of Lagos State right now, when they combine 30 states together, the Lagos State is doing finer than the states. And you begin to look at the merits of people agitating for, creation of new states.
New states.
That, so when we talk about this amendment, it has to be carefully done. It's not as canvassed by Nigerians, but you see restructuring means
there are lots to consider.
Yeah, there are lots
to consider.
The pros and cons. Can we actually take that?
Some states will benefit more, and while some states will suffer.
Yes,
for it.
And a big cut away from the whole thing is that coming after the IPOB agitation. Yes, and a big cut away from the whole thing is that coming after the IPOB agitation. The southeastern governors are there. They've reiterated it before, and the southerners, those areas prone to, restiveness and agitation, they're coming together with Southwest, saying that, look, we believe in this single entity called Nigeria. That in spite of the IPOP thing, in spite of the restiveness, the ultimatum given by this, that will believe the indivisibility of Nigeria. And that was one of the good takeaway from that particular event. So for those agitating for separate country, separate states and everything, they need to know that they don't have the backings of the leaders of their states. When the governors represent the interests.
Well, when it comes to, like the president has said, well, the unity of Nigeria is non-negotiable. A lot of people still have questions on that, but the point there is Nigeria has come to stay.
Yes, yes.
All right, now, when it comes to states, we've heard lots of analysts have said that states are not creative to generate revenue. Now, there are states that don't have the kind of population and market like Lagos and Kano and River State would have, but they can still be creative. There are other ways of generating revenue. We see Anambra State is a good example of at least using what they have at least to get what they want. Now, I wonder what the governors are saying when it comes to different strategies and different creative ways to generate revenue, instead of waiting until Abuja gives them something.
Talking about this creativity, Mike, you will appreciate that since oil was found in Oloibiri in the 60s, and you discover that we got lazy, we became lazy. So it was free money coming. And we kept at it. We kept collecting 13%. Some of those oil-producing areas, they were collecting 13%. Some of those other states, on a good day, there was a time that a state like Akwa Ibom State was going to Abuja to get up to 40 billion naira monthly. That was under Akpabio. There was this particular time that state like Bayelsa State, as small as Bayelsa State, was doing 35 billion naira. So that money kept coming. So it was just a matter of how do we spend this money. So
that amount is just a derivative.
Do you understand?
Yes. As a host community.
That diverted attention. And our constitution, 1999 constitution, is not helping matters in any way. You can't say you want to be creative. Let's say a state like Ondo State, they are saying that they have the highest deposit of bitumen in Ondo State. But the truth of the matter is that the state government does not have access to that bitumen.
Because it's under the exclusive
of the federal government. Exactly.
So how do I look inward? Yeah. I have bitumen, I have lime, I have, whatever you call it. But it's difficult over the years. That's why even when this Muhammadu Buhari administration came, when they saw the danger that, look, this oil is not consistent and it's not as, the prices are not as stable as what you used to have in the past. Let's try and diversify. So since 2015, this is how many months after, how much have we gotten from solid minerals? It takes time. It takes time. That's why the Minister of Solid Mineral, if you listen to Kaya Define, they still need investment in that area. They still need to stop these illegal miners. They still need to do so many other things before we get there. This is not a journey of
because illegal miners are making so much money in Nigeria. Even foreigners, they're not even locals, foreigners making money off Nigeria.
Yes, that's
all right. Ayo, we have to thank you. We have to leave you here right now. Ayo Zumaku is our senior political correspondent. Thank you very much for coming.
Pleasure is mine.
Thank you.
Thank you.